Today I will be discussing and teaching you how to use unions. They're pretty simple. You can use them to make doorways, entryways, and exits. You can even use them to make some really cool shapes and designs that you wouldn't even think about. For instance, if I really wanted to put a hole for a fence post in this little, post, I could just simply go to model and then click negate while having the one subtracting part selected, and then I take the subtracted or negative part, I should say, and non-negative part, and I union them. And what that does is it takes the negative part and subtracts whatever matter is touching the other part that is selected, or parts, and completely opens it up. You can use this in so many different ways though. You can union these parts as one big part. You can intersect them, so it basically deletes where they intersect and keeps everything else. Just like that. So if you wanted to find the exact width and length of that hole, you would just need to intersect them like that. It's pretty simple. And then when you union these, it's pretty easy to undo it. Say if you have a complicated union where you have multiple unions all in one and you wanted to just kind of undo it for whatever reason, it's pretty easy. You can either, Control Z or separate them by clicking that separate button. And now they're no longer married. You can do this with a number of objects. I would not recommend doing a whole lot with unions though, not unless you're ready to suffer, because with unions you can't exactly change their colors unless they're separated. So when I separate it, I click the color red, I can union, but when I go to change it to blue or whatever other color, it will just simply not work. You definitely need to take into consideration the colors of the objects, because when you union blue with red, depending on the color selection and depending on how the objects are set up, it may not look the way you intend it to. So be very careful with that. Aside from that though, unions are pretty fun, simple. Everyone should use them. It makes building on this a lot simpler. If you don't union, you're pretty much causing extra lag too, because a bunch of floating parts is not good for any game. A bunch of models is not good for any game. If you have a bunch of models, it's pretty much just creating extra lag if you want to access anything, because it's making the lines for code longer. It's making the assets more crowded. So definitely recommend using unions. If you don't use unions, you're probably not going to have a very good developing experience.